We're here at the Silver Symposium 2022 with Matthew Halliday, who's the President, CEO, and Director of Canada Silver Cobalt, to talk about his project. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thanks Rob.
So how's the conference been today for you, Matt?
Oh, the conference has been great. We had a nice panel this morning and it's been really busy, so it's good.
Yeah,
good to see.
Lots of investors here, which is nice to see everybody coming out and get back into the conference season as we end the summer. Your project, you are primarily a silver producer, but you have some cobalt, some battery metals. Give us just a real quick rundown of the type of projects that you guys have and where are you mining?
Okay, so we are in the Ontario and Quebec corridor. We have our flagship asset is the Castle East project. It's a high-grade silver deposit with a cobalt byproduct. Okay. And it's also very near to our Castle mine, which is a historic mine that we'd like to go and continue exploration in the future. Okay. We have our EB Auto project in near Kirkland Lake. It's a gold project. And we also have a large number of battery metals projects across Quebec, predominantly copper, nickel, cobalt.
Mm-hmm. So talk about the project you guys are working on first. Are you primarily focused on a specific one?
Well, I mean, of course, the Castle is always the first and foremost in my mind. We're not drilling at the Castle right now. We are really working on a technical side, making sure the environmental baseline is advancing, making sure that the permitting process is going to be coming along, and getting ourselves ready for that ramp. Eventually, we want to ramp down and extract some of that high-grade silver. We do have the facility to process it, and I'm really looking to, right now, see how high we can high grade the initial bulk sample. So I'm looking to really see if I can get above 200 ounce per ton. Okay. And we just finished a drill program on the Graal. Okay. So getting away from the Castle for a second. The drill program at the Graal, very successful, continuing to hit massive sulfide. That'll be a lot of the news generation in the next couple of months as we're getting the results in from that drill program. The Graal also had a technical report produced, and it is the intention of the company to spin the Graal out into its own entity and provide that share to our current shareholders and let the two companies grow independently. I think that there's a lot of potential to be unlocked there. And coming up very shortly, we'll be starting a drill program at our EB Auto property near Kirkland Lake. That's a gold property, but still pretty early phase. We just finished some early exploration. We're doing some stripping. We're doing, drone mag and all this other advanced work to get ready for that drill bit.
So talk about some of the silver grades you're getting, because one of the things that I got attracted to you at Swiss Mining Institute conference was the type of silver grade you're seeing is so rare nowadays in today's modern economy where most silver is produced as a byproduct of some other mine, copper, lead, tin, zinc, whatever. You guys are finding high-grade primary silver deposits. Talk about the level of deposits you're finding, what that really means against, what is the industry average?
Right, so the Castle East is extremely high grade because it's a narrow vein structure. This is the kind of typical structures that are found in the cobalt mining camp. There is various types of deposits in the cobalt mining camp, but most of them are these extremely high grade narrow vein structures, and they're native silver for the most part. So, there can be some other silver minerals in there, but predominantly we're looking at native silver. So we've had some grades up to, our highest grade was 89,000 grams per ton, over 0.3 meters. And when you see the core, it's just dendritic silver with a little bit of cobalt rimming in a quartz carbonate matrix. So very beautiful stuff. What I think is really exciting about having that native silver is the milling component. When you mill this stuff, it liberates so well, and you get a lot of silver in the coarse fraction. We don't need to grind forever and use more energy than is needed. It just is this really beautiful silver that can be produced, and we actually are, again, ready to be able to produce rough doré bars in the future with our facility in the town of Cobalt. So we're really excited about continuing to hit this massive native silver in the Robinson system. And we do have exploration plans for continuing the cobalt mining camp. My vision is to control the mining camp just like Agnico did in the past, and have that centralized milling component. So as we continue to think about discovering more of these silver veins, we have our eyes set on a regional perspective as well, not just locally to the Castle or the Castle East.
So you talked about the milling aspect. I want to dive down a little bit on there. Can you guys mill your entire project, or would you, with what you already have, or would you have to expand that when you get to the point where you may want to develop that project?
I think if we move into a full mining company, we will need to eventually invest in a mill that's larger than the one that we have. However, when it comes down to startup and getting ourselves ready, the mill that we have today is more than sufficient. It can produce multiple million ounces of silver per year. I think that there's somewhere between 12 and 24 ton per hour, or ton per day capacity of this mill. So it is, and again, these deposits, our first resource was only 27,000 tons. So we had 7.5 million ounces, but for really small tonnage because of the high grade nature of it. That resource was a 250 ounce per ton deposit.
That's amazing.
So we don't need to process a lot of tonnage. So for the short term, I think this is a really good facility, and it should be very amenable to getting through bulk sampling and getting even into the early stages of mining.
So I think you guys, in large part, in today's mining world, are a unicorn, essentially. Because I think what you're describing are the old finds that the old timers would find and work on that project and take the high grade off the ground or off the wall or down in the adit that they're going into. You guys are talking about that with modern mining techniques. So talk about, miners now can scale. They have equipment, they have advanced exploration, things like that. When you find such a good high grade project, how does that differentiate you from everybody else that may be looking at silver right now? Because I don't see a lot of those projects right now just popping up on the radar.
Well, I mean, I always go by the motto, grade is king. It does give us an upper hand that we have such high grade that, I believe personally, now we still need to wait for the studies to come out, but I believe the CapEx remains low and the OpEx remains low. So that's really a strong plus for us, plus the environmental impact. Today it's really important to have a low footprint. This would be an underground mine with very little impact because we don't have to move so much tonnage.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing across the world a move by many countries to limit what they consider maybe more damaging mining techniques, some above ground stuff and some other techniques. So anybody that has really an underground mine at high grade, I think you're going to maybe have a little bit of advantage over the market as well. Describe your relationship with the local authorities. How do they view you guys in terms of what you're providing? Have they come to you? I know you're doing an environmental study. Are there other requirements that you're working through with them, and what's your relationship like?
Well, I mean, a lot of our environmental work is being done through our environmental consulting firm. So, the environmental consulting firm does have definitely a good relationship that they've been building with the community and with the provincial government. I must note that this project is of a size and scale that we only need to work with the provincial government. We don't need to do a federal permit.
Okay.
So that's really nice.
That gives you a leg up on the permitting process, right?
It does. Mm-hmm. And I mean, most of these offices are fairly local, within 2-hour drive. So it is people who are invested in the north. When it comes down to community relationships too, we do have a woman on the board of directors. Her name is Diane Tukani. She's First Nation Ojibwe. She's our First Nations consultant as well as community consultant, and so we've been building a strong relationship with the First Nations that are in we're in their territory. So that's been really encouraging, and we're very proactive, early engaging with that. So I think everything is going really, really good.
Right. So for investors for the rest of the year, I always like to ask this question. Can you give an outlook of what the company's going to be doing and what they should expect from you that you guys are going to focus on for the rest of 2022?
Well, there's not too much time left in 2022. So, one of the things, keep an eye out for how we're going to be continuing to develop the Castle East. I do anticipate on moving forward with a technical report, whether it be a PEA or a PFS. That should be coming out, and at least we have that contract signed and chosen the right service provider and getting that path forward.
Sure.
And then, of course, the EB Auto property is going to be drilling, so there'll be a lot of excitement around that. Hopefully we'll have gold intercepts in the near future. And we've already just completed that Grawl. So we'll still have results coming from the Grawl, and we'll have some momentum around that spin out. I anticipate the spin out to be happening within the next 6 months. So, there should be news around that coming up in the next couple of months before the end of the year. And maybe we'll have that path forward to get that out and really provide that value to the investors.
So describe how that spin out would benefit your investors. What do spin outs do when you have a project, you're saying, okay, well, let's spin this into its own. How does that affect your investors? Is it positive or negative?
Well, I mean, of course, you are splitting a piece off of the company, so that does affect that. However, they do get the share and potentially a dynamic dividend, a warrant, or something that we will be giving in the new company. But the new company will have more direct focus. And this project, I like to tout myself as a primary silver explorer. This project is on the battery metals side, so this will be a new battery metals company that will be focused on copper, nickel, cobalt. It will have a management team with the expertise to be able to drive that forward. There might be some shared management team between the two companies, but it won't be a full overlap. So this new company will have more capacity to be able to drive these projects forward, and they'll be able to fund them on their own merits. So I believe the two companies will be a lot stronger than the one.
Yeah, and I think that traditionally holds true with investors that we see. A lot of investors like it when you have a singular story. They may want multiple projects, but they like it if you're silver and gold or battery metals. So I could see that really helping your company out. Yeah.
I would prefer a single story. It makes my life a lot easier, and
it makes it easier to value you in the market, because then you're like, okay, this is what you have. This is what I'm interested in. People can follow your company. The other thing that I like about your company is the potential optionality play. So from an investment perspective, you could get taken out by someone because you're a high silver grade. I anticipate as silver demand increases, which is going to do for industrial reasons. Silver Institute has a report out, the last 4 years we're running deficits. Fourth year being this year, they're expecting a deficit year end. We don't have enough production. Somebody's going to want to come and take you guys out at the silver grades you got. Have you started to receive some interest there, or what do you think may happen in the future?
We haven't seen too much interest there on that front yet, but I think once we get that technical report out, particularly whether it's PEA or PFS, that I think that we'll see a lot more interest, particularly because it should be a high margin project, and as we continue to grow, we have a lot of internal value. Our assets are worth more than people realize, and we've picked up a lot of our assets very cheaply. So we've been thrifty enough to get something that's worth a lot. Like our mill, we did not pay very much for it. Its valuation is probably close to 10 million, and we got it for probably about 600 cash and shares. So same thing with the Castle property. I think we picked up the Castle property back in 2011. It was picked up for $25,000. Speaking of spinouts, it was picked up through a different company. We were a spinout of that company. So,
as happens in the mining sector all the time.
And that worked out very well for us.
Yeah. So looking at your company, what's very interesting is I think you guys are going to hit the scene, and you mentioned PEA and PFS. Those, depending on how they're done, can be seen as bankable studies or at least confirmations of what you got. When that happens, typically large family offices, institutional investors start to get interested in you. And that may be where your popularity really kicks off at that point. Do you expect that that's what's going to happen?
That's my hope. I feel that we have the right goods to get to the next step, and we're ready to start becoming a mining company, or at least be an advanced exploration company that is being able to pull silver out of the ground.
Yeah, last comment I wanted to make, one of the reasons I was really interested in you, so you guys, the way you're priced is basically as an unknown. There are people that definitely own you, you've got big investors, you guys have a lot of internal ownership, but the market is not aware of you yet. You haven't been announced to the market because those studies that you're doing and the spin-off and all those things are going to create a lot of interest. The spin-off is going to create interest, like, oh wait, look at what they did. Then you have this battery metals, and then you go back and say, well, we've got this feasibility study or this economic analysis that people are going to look at. The analysts with the big banks are going to start looking at you guys and going, okay, now I can put pen to paper Maybe I'm going to do a site visit. Maybe I'm going to write about you, and that's going to filter on down through. So the big managed money offices, the managed money, the bullion banks, their clients, that type of thing. So I expect to see maybe a little bit more institutional money coming to you guys as you guys go forward and push forward on your reporting and your exploration. So very exciting to see. Any last thoughts that you have to wrap up the interview here at Silver Symposium?
No, I'd just like to say I think that the symposium is just going splendidly, and I'm really excited to be here in Spokane. It's been a really great opportunity to meet investors, to meet peers, and to see how excited everyone is about the silver market.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate that. For our subscribers, this is one of the companies we handpicked that we like a lot, because we think we got them early enough that there's incredible share value for you that's going to occur over the next few years. We'll be following them on the channel. Stay tuned to Gold, Silver Pros and Silver Symposium for additional coverage.